A business is a funny animal. It needs regular feeding to keep it ticking over. But when it sets itself new goals, all it needs to do is turn to the Royal Bank of Scotland. They have a full range of financial products to help make a company thrive. So if you want your business to really go places, talk to the Royal Bank of Scotland.
Accused of drinking new pear and blackcurrant Cura. But... Hush up! Cura's too fruitful, Crow. But you can never drink Cura again. Hush up!
Never?
Very well, one glass of Cura every 100 years.
Hush up!
Hush up!
Yes, we have a 12 in the blue.
With the scalloped neck.
Yes, a 12 in the blue with a scalloped neck.
And in the white?
Yes, we have a 12 in the white.
And do you have the 14 in the blue?
I thought Madam was a 12.
Well, normally, yes, but you see, if the cut is on the smallish side, they're not generous these days, you know what I mean? They skimp around the armhole.
Yes, we have a 14 in the blue.
And in the white?
And in the white, and in the green, and in the pink.
Green? Oh, now, do you have a 12 in the green?
Yes, we have a 12 in the green.
And in
the pink!
Before you shop, why not call and make sure they've got exactly what you want?
So, you've got all of the colours in both of the sizes?
All the colours in all sizes.
You haven't sold out of anything?
Nothing at all.
It's not what you call all the rage, is it?
British Telecom. It's you we answer to.
There are times when you deserve more than just a coffee break. So make a cup of Mellow Birds. You'll find its smooth, mellow roasted flavor turns an ordinary moment into a mellow moment. Mellow Birds for mellow moments.
He knows they're cool. He knows they're clear. But what he doesn't know is that now they're even mintier. Silly boy. Fox's Glacier Mints. Now 10% more minty.
Mrs. Jones knows what's going on in the world, but she never reads a newspaper. Mr. Jones knows if he's won the polls, even before the sports roundup. Or if he hasn't. Scott Jones always gets to hear the crucial sounds, but his friends never do. So what have the Joneses got that other people don't have? Oracle Teletext. It gives you the edge.
What do any of you know about my life? I know you're doing 90 miles an hour down a dead-end street.
What's that?
I can't stand the way I feel all the time. And if something can take that away, it's worth anything to me.
What do you know about a group called Tough Love?
If you're looking to save me, there's a long, long line of people ahead of you.
Okay, Rob, you handle it. Just let me know how it turns out, okay?
A Family Crisis. Tough Love. Monday at 8:30 on 4.
And Channel 4 is about to experience Dame Edna Everage. Her guests include Sean Connery. On Granada, the news. The news from ITN.
Archbishop makes new appeal to Iran to help release Wait and other hostages.
Urgent government review on service number plates after soldiers shooting. The bushes play to the cameras. He's closing the gap in the polls. And Fatima back to her winning ways. Good evening. The Archbishop of Canterbury has made a new appeal for the release of Terry Waite and the other Western hostages held in Lebanon. He's urged Iran to use all its influence to secure the hostages' freedom. The appeal follows a series of secret meetings between the Archbishop's advisor, Mr. John Little, and a senior Iranian diplomat. In a statement tonight, their talks were described as open and relaxed.
The talks at Lambeth Palace between the Archbishop's senior advisor and an Iranian envoy are said to have been conducted in an open and relaxed manner. The Church has said little of the discussions since they began last week, but now says this phase of the talks is complete. Terry Waite has now been held for 572 days, journalist John McCarthy for 849 days, and teacher Brian Keenan for 855 days. But the Archbishop's advisor doesn't say they'll be home for Christmas.
I wouldn't like to put any kind of a date on it. I think the fact of the matter is that the Iranians have some influence, some substantial influence in Lebanon, far more influence than we have, and we are saying that they ought to exercise that influence, and if they are able to bring about the release of the hostages and get that question off the agenda, then diplomatic and all kinds of other relations will become very much easier.
No group has ever admitted kidnapping the 3 Britons who are being held in this building in South Beirut. It's widely believed to be the Iranian-backed Hezbollah, but there's doubts about how much influence Tehran can now bring to bear.
What's happening on the ground in Beirut amongst the people who are holding Terry? After all, how do they fit into this general improvement in relations? Until we know that, I don't think we can really believe there'll be a miracle soon.
At the same time as the Church talks, the government has been making efforts to improve relations with Iran, as witnessed by this departure last week of the diplomat David Redaway for Tehran. Tonight it was announced that he's been given permission to visit Roger Cooper, who's been held in Iran without charge for 3 years, news which delighted his relatives.
Hoping that he'll be back for Christmas? Long before that, I'll be very disappointed if he's still in prison at Christmas.
You really think things could be quite speedy now, do you?
I don't see any reason for the Iranians to keep him in prison any longer, now that they've changed their slightly xenophobic line and are following the international conventions. They've got to go the whole way.
The government says it's ready to hold urgent talks with West Germany on changing the special car number plates used by British servicemen there. Today's announcement follows the IRA murder of Regimental Sergeant Major Michael Heekin as he drove through Belgium on Friday. His family and other servicemen said the distinctive plates made them sitting targets. Previous security reviews have found that the present plates are a safe system. The Armed Forces Minister, Mr. Archie Hamilton, said today there'll be a lot of practical difficulties if there is a change.
White on black, always 3 letters, 2 figures and a B at the end. The telltale number plate that means this car speeding up the Autobahn is owned by a member of the British Armed Forces serving in West Germany. At Ostend, extreme caution the order of the day. Can't be too careful, eh? That's right. Do you feel safe driving with those number plates? Not really. Some servicemen arriving here 3 hours early, preferring to stay inside the ferry terminal's barriers than sit as potential targets in Ostend's outdoor cafes. Most servicemen we talked to wanted the number plates changed.
Sitting targets all the time, and until they do get it changed, it's just going to keep on happening all the time. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, the cowards, they just place the bombs. We can't do nothing.
Police have appealed tonight for more witnesses. The 5 they have did not see the killers' faces. There was a top-level meeting here today between British and Belgian security officials. It's not known whether they discussed the number plates issue, but those hundreds and possibly thousands of British military personnel now holidaying away from their West German bases and driving cars with those number plates have been warned to be extra specially vigilant, wherever they might be. Vernon Mann, ITN, Ostend.
It was after the killings of 3 RAF men in May that the MOD began its latest review of military number plates. 3 months on, and with another serviceman gunned down in his car, they say it's now a matter of urgency. But ministers point out there are practical difficulties. At the moment, drivers with forces plates pay no British road tax, no VAT, and no German road tax. That and concessions over duty-free petrol would all have to be renegotiated. The former Defence Secretary says the issue isn't clear-cut.
The problem is, as in all of these issues, is that it's a matter of judgment, it's a matter of balance. There are arguments for having distinctive number plates for servicemen, because therefore people who are not in a car of that sort are more conspicuous. In certain circumstances, that could be an important security asset.
But Labour says the government should have acted sooner.
What we are now anxious to avoid is the increase in this risk. And I think that the government have had a report, there are recommendations, they have got to implement these. Our anxiety is that they're taking too long about it.
The Americans recently carried out their own review, deciding against change. They said it wouldn't stop servicemen being targets and would simply be an unnecessary expense.
IRA supporters applauded the killings of British servicemen in Europe during a speech at an anti-internment rally in Belfast. Martin McGuinness of Sinn Féin praised the attacks in Belgium, the Netherlands and West Germany by what he called the IRA's Continental Battalion. He also told the 2,000 marchers that the IRA's actions were the only ones the government listened to. American Republicans are about to launch their presidential candidate, Mr. George Bush, and pay tribute to President Reagan at their New Orleans convention. As the delegates gather, the Democrats' lead in the opinion polls is narrowing, but Mr. Bush is still 12 points behind.
Convention hoopla in New Orleans and increasingly intense political speculation about the big question hanging over this event: who will be named as vice presidential running mate in the vast Superdome later in the week.
Oh, it looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah.
The contenders are already beginning to circle. Senator Bob Dole, once George Bush's arch rival, was there today. So was another former presidential candidate, Congressman Jack Kemp. Others joined the political pundits via satellite. This man's the hottest new tip, Senator Dan Quayle, a clean-cut conservative from Indiana. Everyone's having a say, even Mr. Bush's son, George Jr.
I'm bombarded big boy with all my suggestions.
Big boy?
Well, Dad, of course.
You don't call him big boy.
No.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Thanks, sweetie.
Bush Sr. is stressing his family ties these days, wife Barbara making a rare TV appearance at his side and sharing an even rarer moment of public affection. But Mr. Bush is facing a critical test. He's been struggling to win public support, and there are even questions about his war record. He was America's youngest combat pilot, rescued by a submarine after his plane was shot down. Now, an airman who witnessed the incident has suggested Mr. Bush bailed out prematurely, leaving his 2 crew members to die. The charge is vigorously denied. George Bush may be unchallenged as the nominee, but there's much at stake for him here this week. He must somehow overcome his negative image and build an identity of his own away from the shadow of Ronald Reagan. His speech on Thursday will be the most important of his political career. Tim Ewart, ITN, New Orleans.
Doctors treating the jailed African nationalist leader Nelson Mandela say they've found no evidence of cancer. Mr. Mandela, who's 70, was rushed to Cape Town's Tygerberg Hospital on Friday with an inflamed lung. When his wife Winnie visited him, she was said to be shocked by his appearance. Here, a special church service was held in Hungerford today for the victims of the massacre which stunned the small market town almost exactly a year ago. Gunman Michael Ryan killed 16 local people before shooting himself.
At the start of a week the town has been dreading all summer, family communion at the Church of St. Lawrence was to mark the first anniversary of the Hungerford massacre. Michael Ryan's name is omitted in the list of dead inscribed on a wall. His name is rarely mentioned in this community. Hungerford lost 28 of its townfolk in the 6 years of World War II. In 6 hours of August the 19th last year, it lost more than half that number, 16 people shot dead by one man.
In all that carnage, it seemed almost a cruel irony to proclaim God's love. Yet by prayer and word and deed, so many people were the instruments of God's love.
Today's public service wasn't attended by relatives of the dead, some of whom are still receiving bereavement counselling. Many of them will be away from Hungerford this week. Those staying want Friday's anniversary to be quiet and dignified. Andrew Simmons, ITN, Hungerford.
The Nile in Sudan has burst its banks again just south of Khartoum, adding to the misery of the 2 million people made homeless by flooding 10 days ago. King Fahd of Saudi Arabia donated £5 million to the international relief effort today. Desmond HAMILL reports from Khartoum.
This is the first tented camp the Sudanese military have erected for the homeless, and these tents come from Britain. It's all very neat and tidy in straight military lines. 500 tents here, which will probably shelter some 400 families. But they are still all empty. Just outside, some of the homeless waited patiently for a chance to move in. But because the military want to control and discipline the camps, and they've yet to erect a police station, these people will just have to wait at least another 4 days. Beyond, on the very northern edge of the city, the hardest hit area of all, more rain falling during the night has added to the floodwaters that lie here. We lurched along the road, driving off it and through the floodwater where the road had been washed away. Everywhere, empty spaces where houses had stood. Thousands of them have gone. Along the road, some shouted they needed government help, that they needed food in their stomachs. People camp where they can. Every small rise has a group huddled on it. Women, children, families, and what possessions they have clutched around them. The railway embankment, although washed away in places, is one of the highest and therefore driest spots to pick. But getting across the acres of water can be difficult. Desmond HAMILL, ITN, Khartoum.
Soccer, and Arsenal won the international club tournament at Wembley after putting together a trio of late goals against Bayern Munich. Brian Marwood's corner enabled striker Alan Smith to stab the first goal home in a goal-mouth scramble in the 72nd minute. 5 minutes later, it was another Marwood corner, and Smith was there again to head in the second. 4 minutes from time, Paul Davis fired in a shot which goalkeeper Alman parried, and right-back Lee Dixon got Arsenal's third on the rebound. Arsenal took the trophy on superior goal difference over AC Milan. Sheffield cyclist Malcolm Elliott has won the Kellogg's Tour of Britain, covering the 6-day race in 30 hours, 35 minutes and 37 seconds. Joey McLaughlin of Liverpool was second, and Sean Kelly of Ireland third. Fatima Whitbread made a victorious comeback at the Dairycrest Games in Gateshead today after a 6-week layoff because of injuries. The world's fastest woman was also there. Florence Griffith-Joyner sailed through in the 100 metres despite an unnerving incident before the start.
In more ways than one, this was a dress rehearsal for the Olympics. American glamour girl Florence Griffith-Joyner was displaying her most exotic sprint wear right down to the nails. She also showed her extraordinary speed. The 28-year-old world record holder won easily against a strong wind. Her worries came before the race when an autograph hunter manhandled her.
Well, he insisted on an autograph, and he grabbed hold of me, and he wouldn't let me go. And it was quite stunning to me, and it took me by surprise.
British sprinters John Regis and Linford Christie lead the men's fashion stakes, though Christie had the edge in their 100 metres. No fancy dress for Fatima Whitbread. After a 6-week layoff through illness and injury, she was just glad to be back. She won the javelin with a throw of 67 metres, below her best, but she says she'll be ready for Seoul. The best performances came from Judy Oakes, who broke the British shot put record for the 3rd time this year, and from Welsh sprint hurdler Colin Jackson. Increasingly, he looks a gold prospect. Today, he left the top American Tony Campbell trailing behind. Mark Austin, ITN Sport.
And that's the news. Good evening.
People are a special kind of energy, he said, like electricity. So they can never really die.
Coincidence? Sure. 2 mass psychotic outbreaks in 5 years. Coincidence?
I give you the human brain. Artificial intelligence is about making models, Mr. Raines. Models of the mind. Start confusing the model with the thing itself, and I'd say you really are getting into Frankenstein territory.
Chekhov in Yalta, the ITV play, is next. The weather becoming dry overnight with variable amounts of cloud. Temperatures falling to around 11 centigrade, 52 Fahrenheit, allowing a few mist patches around dawn. Tomorrow is expected to be mostly dry and bright with sunny intervals. It'll be much fresher, and though a little cooler than today, top temperatures around 18 centigrade, 64 Fahrenheit. It should feel quite pleasant with light southwesterly winds. That's the forecast.
Guten Morgen!
Morning, Klaus.
Ah, CHEKHOV.
Yes.
Smells good.
Tastes all right, too.
CHEKHOV is naturally decaffeinated for a richer, smoother flavor.
Enough for two, yeah?
You're absolutely right.
CHEKHOV. When coffee tastes this good, who needs caffeine?
Now for all you individuals out there, a taste that's crunchy, chewy, moist and delicious. You'll love Tracker in roasted nut or chocolate chip. Tracker makes straight for the taste. Over now.
Tracker makes straight for the taste.
There you go, Eddie.
Oh, well, thanks, Hagar. Got another skull, Hagar?
Yeah. Don't usually touch spirits. Skull. Horribly good lager.
Graham and Brian have just retired. Graham chose a Norwich Union pension. Brian didn't.
We'll manage perfectly well with what we've put by.
Graham can continue to enjoy life to the full. Brian's trying to cope too.
There's a few miles left in this car yet.
Graham and his wife are just off on holiday. While Brian...
Our front garden's good enough for us.
Graham enjoys real peace of mind at night with the strength and security of a Norwich Union pension. And Brian?
We'll get by all right. The house is worth a bob or two. And there's your savings as well, aren't there, love? Love?
Don't just take our word for it. Take independent financial advice, too, about the performance of a pension from Norwich Union.
Hey, Freddie, what's happening?
My parents drained the pool.
Oh, so who wants to swim, huh?
The band didn't show.
Well, you have a stereo, right?
The bus from the girls' school broke down.
I see girls.
We're out of Pepsi.
Oh, man.
In America, a cola by any other name just isn't the same.
Big Tom. The bottle's green, but don't adjust your set. It's new Domestos Fresh with a directable jet. It kills germs dead, and it clings real well. What's so new? It's got a fresh smell. Big Tom. So when cleaning your toilet, just follow your nose and choose one of the bathroom's big heroes. Because remember, folks, whether green or blue, there's no meaner germ killer in your loo. Big Tom. Big Bad Tom.
Based on a true incident is the ITV play now, starring Tom Courtenay as Chekhov in Yalta.